Good day to all of you for attending this course. My procedure will be to introduce the subject of gender diversity and take you through a series of questions. Is the topic by itself, is it a fiction or a fact? Is it a glorified topic of our televisions, or is it really a fact based on statistical analysis? And next, go through the reasons of whether is it the need of women alone, or is it the requirement of the government and the society in large. The third question, which we will be scientifically analyzing, is that what is the reason for the existing diversity in gender, and what are the methods by which we can do a social engineering to alleviate this problem. And these are the kind of different questions that I will be taking you through. So the first thing is to request all of you to play an game with me. It's a thought experiment. Just all of you, I'll just count 30 seconds. Try to recall 10 names of, let me say, administrators in our country. If you are finding it difficult to get 10 names, 5 names. Let me see how many of you are able to get 5 names full. 30 seconds are over now. How many of you have got women and men names equal in this list? Definitely, I am very sure you will not forget Jayalalitha, or you will not forget Indira Gandhi. So that's a blessing. Now you do a similar experiment in music, either cine music or classical music. So 30 seconds are over now. So in your list, just check if you have M.S. Subbulakshmi, if you are touching classical music, or if you have chosen cine music, have you got some 2-3 ladies' name? If you do the same experiment for artists, you will again find that it's very easy for you to get the names of women. But now the toughest time comes to you. Can you list names of 5 scientists? 1, 2, 3. Yes, 30 seconds are over. How many of you have got single name of a woman scientist? Very rarely. You will at best get Madame Curie and none in India. It's not that there have not been women scientists. I will be listing a large number of women scientists as we go through. Then you will find that you have missed the glory of our own country. Now this experiment has taught us one good lesson, that it's easy to find women in equal numbers in all other disciplines, politics to arts, but it is difficult to find in science, technology, engineering or medicine. So now this is only the first experiment we have done. Now let's look at certain hard facts in the next slide. Now you see the international women icons in all walks of life, starting from space to sports to defense, anywhere. You can list a large number of women icons, mentors. Similar exercise if you do for our national limits, you will find that you will have lot of women icons in the national front also, like you have from space, society, literature, defense, politics, music. Anywhere you go, you see a lot of women icons. But the question is, in spite of such unforgettable women icons, why do we still keep saying that there is a gender bias? So is it only a TV show attracting a lot of attention, or is it true? That is a scientific question for which there has to be a statistical analysis. If you see the rights of women till 18th century, they did not even have voting rights. For today, it is unimaginable for you and me to imagine that women could not vote. Same way, today's inequalities which I will be now listing, it will be surprising, and I hope it is unimaginable for the next coming future generation. You see, this is the list of the women icons or in the administration, field of administration or politics in various countries. You see Bhutan, 0% women representation in their parliament, and all the colors represented by yellow, you have at best 3 to 15% only representation in parliament. All the brown colors, you have developed countries, you have 50% representation, which is very good. That is towards an ideal society. So this is one statistics. Now let me go through another statistics. If you see the wages of various people, women always have less wages, a lot of money less than the males. But if you see poverty levels, 70% of the world's population living in poverty, they are all women. And if you now go to unemployment rate, 6 to 7% of unemployment rate is for females, whereas for males it's only 5 to 6%, which is again a lot of disparity between male and female. Here is our statistics from within our own country. There is a lot of difference between literacy rate. How much can a boy and a girl study before they start taking up the responsibilities of doing a job? If you see, the red color represents for male, not only today, right from 1900, this particular statistics is collected, you find that literacy rate is increasing. It's a very, very good feature, very satisfying point. But the difference between male and female continues to exist, and the difference between urban and rural. The urban people always have a better opportunity than the rural people. So such kind of divisions have to vanish. Another set of examples, if you see, till 2014, 814 people have collected the Nobel Laureate Award. But you see, out of 814, only 46 women have collected the Nobel Laureate Award. Aren't there enough women? This is the question. So, why is the women participation negligible in all spheres? The statistics confirms to us that the gender bias, it is not a myth, but it is a fact. This is not a problem of men versus women. It is not a problem of homemaker versus breadwinner, but it is the problem of the society, and it is the problem of the entire globe to ensure increasing standards of living to all the people living in this world, and we need to make use of all the resources available to us. So hence the global gender equality is a global need and not the need of women. It's true, women need work, women need money, women need financial independence, but more than that, the work, the demand also needs women much more than the women need the work. You see the heterogeneous current society which is prevalent in our society today. The 20% who are the richest in the world, they get 75% of the global income. Can you believe that? The 40% who are the poorest, they get just 5% of the global income. 35% of Indians, can you imagine, they get 35 rupees per day, which you and me will not even hesitate to spend in a matter of a minute. And even this 35 rupees per day, which is the Indian average, is far less than the global average of $10 per day. So now if you look at the gender gap index based on social indicators like economic, political, education, health, advancement in all features, if you index the gender gap, it varies from one country to the other country. There is no uniform number for all these ranks. But if you also rank various countries, the 133 countries were ranked, and you know where India stood? It is 32 from the bottom. I think we need to urgently do something to ensure that our gender gap index is improved. Now, the origin of gender gaps, this is the second or third question we are coming to. I think it is a third question. Fine. The question now is, what is the origin for this gender bias? Is the population unequal, or the number of women less than number of men, or is it the legacy of the past, or is it true, scientifically proving, unbiased way, we should also be able to accept if there are differences in capabilities of men and women. So we should explore all this in a scientific manner, in an unbiased manner. So look at statistics. The population of the world from various countries, when you see for men and women, we find that the ratio is more or less 50% plus minus 2-3. That's all. So we can say that the number of men and women, the difference is not very high. Therefore, that does not contribute to the observed gender bias, which we have seen in the second part of my talk. That statistically speaking, there is a gender bias. It is not a myth and it is real based on statistical analysis. But the reason for that does not seem to be based on the difference in the number of girls versus boys. Now look at the capability of the brain. So the gray matter in the brain, the physiologists have worked on the amount of gray matter concentration in the brain of females and males. And they have also attributed quantitatively the emotional intelligence, and they find that in absolute scale the brain weight seems to be more for males, less for females. Good. Does it imply that females have less emotional intelligence? Now, what they have done is divide the weight of the, normalize the gray matter in the brain by the weight of the brain. If you do that, you get into something called a factor called emotional intelligence, which is higher for females. So this way the biologists have shown that the capabilities of men and women are more or less the same. See, we have come very far from sati, child marriage, widow remarriage, and many such problems, resistance to many issues which are in a progressive manner available for the women to improve their abilities. Girl education, Devadasis, all these were, sort of situation with respect to all these issues were very bad in medieval period. But look at the revolutionary characters who in the modern period, like Rajaram Mohan Roy and Dayananda Saraswati, Mahatma Gandhi, whose pictures are available in the slide, who targeted the improvement of women in a very decisive manner. And today we have largest number of professionally qualified women, largest population of working women, and women are able to contribute to the betterment of the society in large. So if you see all the 4 reasons which were asked as to what is the reason for the gender inequality, we have shown population distribution is not the reason, inherent differences is not the reason. I have only given you one simple example, but there are many such research work which I recommend that all of you study. I have given the references in the text. Biased environment and evolutionary influences, these are the 2 factors which have taken us to where we are today, for which we need to continuously apply corrections so that in future the difference comes down. At least instead of 33 rank from the bottom of 133 countries, India has to go to the top. where gender inequality index completely vanishes and it becomes 1 for us. If you see in science, now I have talked to you so far in general in all fields. Now let me focus to science. If you see in science compared to the total workforce in all other fields, whether it be in India or it be in US, you will find that there is a drastic reduction in the number of women working in science and engineering. I have given the statistics for both the US as well as India, and this is the same story any country you take. Whatever I have given is a sample of what has happened in 2 different countries. If you see something like number of teaching faculty, women faculty in say some standard college university like MIT in US, you will find that not more than 3% or 5% will be available till about 20th century end. Whereas India is far better. You go to any of the colleges, there are very many fields in which India fares much better than other countries. You will find that many women prefer to do science education, be science teachers. If you look around in all colleges, you will find equal number of women teachers as well as men teachers. So this is a number of total number of PhD awarded. I can give any number of examples like this because DST does a lot of research on these kind of factors through various institutions in the country. Actually, these are topics of many PhDs. So today a lot of data is available to say what is a gender bias which we have been putting up with in the last few centuries. And here is an example for PhDs awarded in a period of 98 to 2007, the difference between men and women. And the gender inequality, I told you already that it varies from country to country. It depends too much on the fabric of the society. It's not a problem which has unique factors on which all countries will depend on. It depends on the societal fabric, and today in India the major problem of the society is food, health, literacy and good education. In this backdrop, women education really occupies a low priority from administrators' point of view. In spite of that, it is given a lot of push. When 35% of the population is having less than 30 rupees to eat, where is the question of women education getting too much priority? But in spite of that, government has given a lot of priority for removing this bias, and I will come to the schemes which the government has introduced later. You can analyze the problem after dividing the entire career of a person into 3 stages. The problems are not the same in all stages. The problems for girls in school education are of different nature compared to girls in college education, compared to women who are working in teaching or research jobs at a higher level. So if you divide the entire timeline into 3 major compartments, you will find that in a poor community like India, the value of education is not really perceived in the proper sense. In many villages, every girl is considered as an additional hand to augment the family income and help the parents to earn more. So the education does not get priority compared to increasing their or meeting their day-to-day requirement between the hand and the mouth. So the school education, if you want to increase, many governments have introduced school education, compulsory education with midday meals, as you all know in Tamil Nadu. So such kind of education, such kind of schemes help or at least encourage the families to consider sending the girls to school as one of the profitable venture. At least one meal per day they don't have to feed. That is the driving force for the poor family to send the girl to school, because their attitude is, after all the girl is getting married at the age of 12, why should I spend money on her education? So this has been correctly perceived and proper solutions have been introduced. Next, when you come to college level, what does a girl face? Every girl who is very good in studies, who wants to study further, wants to do higher education. Today may be BE, but halfway through their education, suppose they get married, they are forced to terminate their studies. It all depends on the family background from which the girl comes to the college. And not all families, more than 70% of the Indian population does not accept that the girl has to study till, say, completion of the college course, whatever may be the course. That is why I have given the number of colleges which are increased over a period of time, but there is no official restriction to join college, but there is a societal pressure, lack of perception, and more than that, there is a genuine economic factor, and access to colleges near home. It is another factor which can be corrected to encourage girls to complete their studies. The nature of problems of women when you reach their career, their teaching profession or the research profession, they are very, very different, which I will discuss as we approach that particular stage. So you see, the women who are working in different national research laboratories or colleges, they have a different kind of a problem. The professional rigidity which is there in the Indian society, it should be relaxed. I will explain what I mean by professional rigidity. A girl studies in a college for a particular 2 semesters or 4 semesters, and for family pressures she gets married. She is now forced to stop her education. Even though she has studied in one particular college, what is wrong in her to go and join another college and transfer all the credits that she has collected in a previous college to another college? The Indian administrative system will not permit that. She has to go back to square one, which has a lot of resistance. Another problem is the social attitude. To the extent the boy is not questioned as to why should he go further for his studies, the girl is always questioned. It doesn't happen in the top brass. Upper middle class, it does not happen. But if you talk with lower middle class people or lower middle class, you will find that this question always arises, because the economic pressures overcome the need for further education or completion of the education. The major problem for completing education, even at the level of PhD, many of my own PhD students have felt this problem, not necessarily for girls, for also boys. For men and women, the job opportunities in the country is very, very less. That is the reason why there is a brain drain. The job opportunities have to be increased and shown that unless there is a job waiting for you with a good salary if you complete your education. That's most potential driving force for all girls to complete their education and also overcome the social resistance towards education of girls. The last thing is the system support. System support, by which I mean that if in a family, man and woman, both of them are going for job, for increasing the standard of life or meeting their ambition of doing good science, you don't have a societal support. You don't have a good support for creche, or even the postman tells you that come to the post office and collect the registered parcel. I will not deliver because the house is locked. See, these kind of small irritants take place when both go to office. I am not telling this as a reason why it is not, but why people are not going for job. But what I am telling is that These kind of irritants make your day-to-day life very miserable, that you finally, after a period of 3-4 years of struggling hard to meet both the ends, you decide that okay, let one be at home to take care of the house requirements. These things happen in many houses. So system support, nowadays there is definitely an increase in system support. E-commerce has improved, has really helped us, but this has not reached all the segments of the society. This is still confined to the top layer and at best upper middle class. It has not reached all layers. So, but if you have to see on the other side, if you have to sit on the other side, that is as an employer, you want to see the persons who are performing in a scientific platform. The scientific profession is very competitive and it is very challenging. I have worked in the scientific profession for 40 years. I have been completely mentored very well. I have not had any instance where I am distinguished. I am not encouraged because I am a woman. I have always got the encouragement right from home, in college and in office, and hence I am an associate director. But the problem is not, the question is that scientific profession is very challenging. Women also have to meet, first of all have to recognize the demands of the job and have to raise up to the level of performing well in the job. So it is not necessary that you have to take off till the age of 35, because when a man and a woman joins a profession, you have to establish yourself, be it a man or be it a woman, you have to establish oneself by the age of 30 or 35. And active research, teaching life, guiding PhD students, national projects, international collaborations, peer recognition, good mentors, all this comes in this particular age. We cannot say that I will take off for 10 years, I will join at the age of 35, I will restart my life. Then the problem comes that we are losing time. So we need to establish a society where we get extra support from the society for meeting our additional requirements, and hence we are able to meet the demands of the organization in which each one of us are working. We don't want liberties because we are a woman. We don't want concessions because we are a woman. You need to be equally recognized when you perform equally well like another man. So who has to give you the liberties? You take your liberties. Nobody else gives you. That has to be imprinted in the mind of every woman, and not seeking any concessions, because it brings down our prestige, and we need to feel high on our own capabilities to come up in this competitive world of science. There is one more thing which I would like to tell, that of the 3 stages which I talked about, I have told how in the school we can encourage children, in the college how we can encourage, and in the professional how women also should aim high and we also should get societal support. Another thing is the glass ceiling effect. Why there are not enough number of Nobel laureates, enough number of say scientific directors? The problem is not because there are no capable women, but the problem is if you have to choose one high post, one award out of 1000 scientists, 950 are men and 50 are women. I am just telling a statistics. The probability of the award being won by man is very high, because number of competing people are men very high, 950 people. Out of 50, it's becoming difficult to choose one. That is the reason for the glass ceiling effect. And another effect called the sheep effect, black sheep effect. The senior women need to necessarily mentor the junior girls who are entering the profession and take care of their upcoming. There are many schemes which are introduced by the country, despite their very many difficulties, the priorities being different, but still there are many national schemes which I have listed here, Kiran, Disha and Women Empowerment Mission. So these are the kind of opportunities which help women to overcome the additional demand from the family. So let me conclude this particular session on gender equality. We have gone through the series of women achievers, but statistics is the other way, and the different reasons for gender inequality like population or legacy or the genuine incapability of women, all that has been disproved, and it has been shown as legacy what we have received from the past has a gender bias, but it is continuously reducing, and women in STEM is much less compared to any other field, that also by statistics it has been shown. And now to understand the nature of problems, we have divided the time into 3 different domains, and in each domain the nature of problem and nature of solutions we have seen. There is no single jacket which suits all. We need to necessarily find out the solutions to be different for different societies, for different age groups, and accordingly it is the responsibility of both men and women to launch a gender equal society. At least we pass it on to the next generation, a society with a less gender bias. Social engineering takes a long time. It is not a small time effort, but we need to continuously go through. All have to have equal job opportunities. We need to have flexi time, and we need to have improved working environment. We have to have enough health care, and we have to have less female infanticide in Tamil Nadu. It assumes more importance, and we need to change the societal values system, which takes a long time, and we need to empower women to ensure that we launch a very just, very ethical society with equal opportunity to all.